What do you mean they were being healed all over the sanctuary and the cult only has authority in their circle? What do you mean by their circle?
The covens have a circle they use as their circle of power, and the Christian church, well, people were being healed all over the sanctuary. There were people with miracles occurring, and I couldn't account for that, and that was a real turning point.
So you're telling me it's a greater power in Christianity than in Satanism?
Absolutely.
I know that, but I like to hear it.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about your background. Were your parents into Satanism?
My parents and my grandparents, and it's generational back through history. We had ties with about 12 different types of cults.
Is that typical, many generations of Satanism?
It's typical to be generational. It's not typical to be involved with that many different organizations within the cults.
But the thing I don't quite understand is you were Southern Baptist, very religious, if you will, during the day, and into ritual abuse of Satan at night. How are the two compatible?
They aren't, because they're so opposite. What they had done from the time I was an infant was they divided my mind, where I had a part of me that was involved in the cult and a part of my mind that couldn't accept that kind of situation, that kept me normal during the daytime. And I was raised to make the appearance of good in my family.
What was your father's background?
He was from a Quaker Southern Baptist background.
And what was his background in Satanism?
He was in leadership.
Okay, why would a Satanist want to be in a staunch fundamentalist Southern Baptist church?
This is typical, that they will have a front that will make them look normal to society. A lot of the leadership in different organizations throughout the United States and churches throughout the United States also are very heavily involved in the cult.
What was the first time that you began to question what was happening to you?
I think there were different times in my life. When I was in college, I realized there was something fundamentally wrong, but I couldn't tell what it was. And again, at different points when I had my children, I knew something was very wrong, but I couldn't understand why. And eventually I dropped out of church because I would finish the service and I would leave so frustrated, and yet I knew people had something I wanted, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong in my life, that I couldn't feel as happy and satisfied in Jesus as they were. And so that was a point in time where I knew something had to be different. I left church for an entire summer. And then in the fall, I went to a Christian coffee house.
Why did you go to the Christian coffee house?
I was just going to buy a card, and I really knew something was wrong, but I couldn't really discern what it was. And I thought, I'll just go by there. Maybe there's a book. Maybe there's something that will help.
So you were really reaching out for help.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, was there anyone that you know of today that was praying for you to come out of Satanism?
I think there were people praying for me, but they not necessarily to come out of Satanism, because most of my close friends didn't have an idea that this was even happening. I had people pray, throughout the years. But when I left the church, what happened was that I had been programmed with hymns. And in the fundamental churches, the hymns were reinforcing what they had taught me in the cult.
So let me see if I understand this. You were programmed with hymns with evil attached with it, but they were good Christian hymns, so that when you would go to church and hear these hymns, you would think about things in Satanism.
That's correct.
Why would they do that?
They do that to defile anything having to do with Christianity, to make it where Christianity wouldn't work for people who have been raised generationally. Amazing Grace is one I think of, and they did horrible things during the time that Amazing Grace was sung. So every time I was in a church service and they would sing it, then I would have these horrible feelings of terror, of fright, of just confusion, of not knowing what was wrong, but knowing something was very wrong.
You were, in your way, you were reaching out for help, and you went into a Christian coffee house, and someone came up to you, you didn't know him at all, and he, as we like to say, he read your mail. How did you feel when he knew these things about your life?
It absolutely terrified me, because I had not grown up near anyone who spoke prophecy. And so I called a friend, and she told me it was God. I need to listen.
And were you happy, afraid? What was going on inside it?
I was absolutely terrified. I just thought, what is God doing? And why is this happening?
And then you saw a Christian television show. Why are you watching a Christian television show?
That night, I knew something had happened the day before, and so the next day I was watching a Christian show, just kind of searching, trying to figure out what was going on, and I had a vision.
A vision?
A vision.
Was this from God?
I didn't know what it was at first.
Well, what was it? Let me hear.
I called Bethel and asked if there's someone here that could give me information and tell me possibly what had happened. And when I knew that if I came here, I probably would never come back again, and I would never run into these people again and be embarrassed by having such a weird question. And so the person I spoke to was one of the pastors, and he said, no, this is from God, and you decide if it's for you or if it's corporate. And that was a point where I knew God was doing something, and it was something I couldn't understand.
Could you tell me the vision?
I had a vision of a vase, and the vase just was shattered. And then the vase had lots of hands around it, and it was in plaster. And then I could see the chipping away of the vase. Then I saw the vase, and it had like a rainbow, and it had a dove coming out of it with just a stream of water going in. And at that time, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something powerful.
I don't need a supernatural revelation to know what that is. Now, you came here for counseling.
That's correct.
And after a period of counseling, many people that have been under ritual abuse have blocked, as a form of protection, the horrible things they've went through, and they don't even remember them. Was that true in your case?
That was 100% true. I had no idea. I had a very normal life, was active in community events, active in church, had gone to a Christian college, and knew something was wrong but didn't know what it was until I started having memories of a ritual.
How does it feel? How does it feel now to be free?
Absolutely wonderful. I have sorrow over the years I've lost, but I also have an incredible joy.
Well, let me ask you a very pointed question for a reason. What happens if you hear a song that perhaps you were programmed to tie in with Satanism, as you had explained earlier? They use Christian hymns to when they're doing the abuse and to brainwash you against Christianity in kind of a perverse fashion. What happens when you hear a song like Amazing Grace?
You know, it's been reclaimed for God. Right now I have sorrow over the years that I lost and the way that they had used it, but I have incredible joy and incredible depth of feeling for the songs. They have a significance that I'm sure a lot of people would understand.
You told me that there was one power in a Christian church that overcame everything the devil had.